الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه، نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله العظيم من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا، إنه من يهديه الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ولن تجد له وليا مرشدا، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، له الملك وله الحمد وهو على كل شيء قدير، وأشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وحبيبه، أدى الأمانة وبلغ الرسالة ونصح الأمة وكشف الله به الغمة وجاهد في الله حق جهاده حتى أتاه اليقين. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله سبحانه، وإن خير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وإن شر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله سبحانه. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم، ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. My brothers and sisters, in the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the ever merciful, and all praise and the blessings and salutations upon all the prophets and messengers, from Adam alayhi salam to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. My brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنِ افْتَرَى عَلَى اللَّهِ الْكَذِبَ وَهُوَ يُدْعَى إِلَى الْإِسْلَامِ وَاللَّهُ لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمَ الظَّالِمِينَ. There is no transgression from anyone than those who make up lies about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنِ افْتَرَى عَلَى اللَّهِ الْكَذِبَ وَهُوَ يُدْعَى إِلَى الْإِسْلَامِ, even though they are being called to Islam, and indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't guide the transgressors and the wrongdoers. وَاللَّهُ لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمَ الظَّالِمِينَ. My brothers and sisters, last Jum'ah we talked about what is Islam for us. And the reason I'm discussing that topic specifically, especially we're ending Ramadan around 2 weeks or over 2 weeks ago, and many of us have already fasted the 6 days of Shawwal. Some others are still in the process, some others did not even fast it. But is Islam just only Ramadan or not? Or is Islam only knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the 30 or 29 days or nights, or just more than that? And the reason for this, my brothers and sisters, that we are not understanding Islam fully, unfortunately. Many of us understand Islam in a small, tiny, narrow mindset, and ignoring the big elephant here in the room, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't only present Islam to us as a 5 daily salawat, rather Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala presents to us Islam in every aspect in our life. And that's a very good point too, because when you call people to Islam, وادع إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن هو أعلم بمن ضل عن سبيله وهو أعلم بالمهتدين. Call the people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with hikmah. So what is the hikmah here in understanding first our religion? So when we are talking to others about our faith, we know exactly what our faith is. Because our understanding of faith for the most part might be a small angle of the faith, ignoring the others. For instance, when people are now, we having recently a lot of protests going on in the United States of America, calling people to stop the genocide that's happening to our brothers and sisters in Gaza and everywhere, especially in Palestine, and to see the suffering of our brothers and sisters in different parts of the world. Should we as Muslims be engaged in that or not? Should we stand against the genocide or not? Some people would say, I'm not going to, because that's not part of my religion. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks people to stand against the dhulm, wherever it is. So, am I calling that a dhulm or not? And we remember in the history when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dedicated a non-Muslim standing against the dhulm and against the wrongdoings that was happening for 3 years for the Muslim community in Mecca, when they were blocked in a corner called Sha'b ibn Abi Talib, or Sha'b Abi Talib, a small corner in Mecca. They're blocked everywhere, no transportation in and out, no food in and out, no exchanging of finances in and out. So they've been blocked from the basics of life, and the non-Muslims stood up and said, I'm going to cut that treatment and I'm going to rip it off because that's not right. So, as a Muslim, am I engaged in something like that? Am I engaging with the encampment of so many students, or at least supporting them, or especially, or even talk positively about this movement that people are really fed from being engaged and paying money that's being used to killing others, especially with passing laws over and over again with billions of dollars? Or am I Muslim? That means that I'm engaged in that, but I'm not participating in the Jum'ah prayer. I would rather go to a protest over coming to the Jum'ah. Or I'm Muslim, that means I'm going to finish my salawat and go back to my business that in and out has a lot of haram in it. So these type of questions, my brothers and sisters, the answer to them is narrow because we do not understand first and foremost what our religion is for us. And when I mean our religion, I do not mean the English word of religion. Because Islam is not only rituals. Islam is not only rituals. Islam is not only mu'amalat and transactions and actions and engagement and activism. Islam is not only ahkam. All of these coming together. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His own exact Quran, He talked about what you should eat. And the exact same Quran, He told you, you need to pray. And the exact same Quran, He told you to stand up against the dhulm. And the exact same Quran, He told you to worship one God. And the exact same Quran, He told you that zina and adultery and stealing and saying bad words and foul language is haram. In the exact same book. And even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself warned from that short-sighted understanding of Islam when He says, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَتَّخِذُ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَنْدَادًا يُحِبُّونَهُمْ كَحُبِّ اللَّهِ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the exact same Quran He warned and He said that some people أَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْضِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفُرُونَ بِبَعْضِ. Are you going to divide the Quran to take the part that's related to rituals? I have salah, I have sawm, I have hajj, and how I'm supposed to do all of that, and that's it, and ignore the part that talks about the aqeedah, that Allah is one, and or you take both and ignore the part that talks about the fahisha, and these fawahish are plenty, whether with consent or not, whether you're agreeing with the other person to do fahisha with them or not. Because if we look at Lut, for example, and his people, he told them, أَتَأْتُونَ الْفَاحِشَةَ مِنَ الْعَالَمِينَ. Are you actually living your life, committing over and over again as part of your lifestyle, engaging أَتَأْتُونَ الذُّكْرَانَ, engaging in homosexual actions? That's this exact same Quran. unless we want to pick and choose in the Quran. But those who pick and choose in the Quran are warned from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, أُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمْ خِزْيٌ فِي الدُّنْيَا. You have a humility in this earth. And in the day of judgment and before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have severe punishment. وَنَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ, my brothers and sisters, because we cannot afford that punishment. The punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is severe, and a humility in that dunya as well. That you become a wish-washy Muslim. A Muslim that trending with whatever comes out. A Muslim that's an imma'a wal-'iyadhu billah, that follows and puppets what the people do. Because the cultures will change, and the lifestyles will keep evolving. But the essence of our religion and our faith is the same. Allah is going to be one since the creation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala huwa al-awwalu, wa huwa al-akhiru, wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir, wa al-zahiru, wa huwa al-batin. Allah is the first, is the last. Allah is not going to come one day that He's not one, or He is manifested in Trinity. No. Also the same thing, the haram is haram and the halal is halal. Eating an animal that's being dead is haram. حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ الْمَيْتَةُ. Whether that's at the time of the Prophet ﷺ or right now, 14 centuries after that. Because Allah said that حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَيْتَةُ وَالدَّمُ وَلَحْمُ الْخِنْزِيرِ. So pigs and swine is never going to be halal in any circumstances, except فَمَنِ اضْطُرَّ غَيْرَ بَاغٍ وَلَا عَادٍ. Except you are forced or you are dealing with the necessity of survival. This is why I found, my brothers and sisters, is amana on me to explain to everyone that Islam is not pick and choose. Because especially here in America, as a minority, we are seeing a lot of picking and choosing. We're seeing if somebody support me, and for example, they are LGBTQ, so that means I need to support them back by going to their parades. No, you cannot do that. You respect these humans, but you cannot go and promote something that's haram because they are very helpful. And here we're dealing with emotions and putting our emotions as our God, more than what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that's haram and that's halal. Also we see people that when it comes to their own money, they consider money is more than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, more influential. And in terms of the amount of profits that they make. That's why I would go back to the roots. What did the Prophet ﷺ first ask people to know about Islam? What is the message really and truly, in essence, that the Prophet conveyed to others about Islam? The Prophet ﷺ conveyed the message to the people in that comprehensive religion. Now, and again, I'm saying the religion because I don't have another English word for saying it. Because in the English cultures and the Western cultures, the religion is very narrow. It's maybe a faith or rituals. But when we're talking about our faith and our tradition and our values and our civilization, we're talking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asking from us, women and men, children, older and younger, to be effective humans, filled with iman in their hearts, filled with faith in their hearts, and that iman and that faith is the compass that guides them. And that iman and that faith is effective in public as well as in private. That iman and faith is effective in financial settings as well as in legal settings. That iman and faith is effective in the street and in universities and in government and in interactions with the other people and other humans, whether they believe in what you believe in or not. That iman and faith, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala summarized it by saying, إِنَّ الدِّينَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ الْإِسْلَامِ. إِنَّ الدِّينَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ الْإِسْلَامِ. Indeed, the deen. And the deen, my brothers and sisters, is that everything that you are in debt to Allah for comes from deen, comes from commitment, comes from adherence, comes from every aspect that you do in your life. إن الدين عند الله الإسلام وما اختلف الذين أوتوا الكتاب من بعد ما جاءتهم البينات And the people were going to come after this and change, and they want to change that. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. الحمد لله رب العالمين ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد, my brothers and sisters, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals the Quran to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, He revealed the Quran as a fulfillment book, as the Furqan, the dividing book that divides between truth and falsehood. Revealed the Quran over a period of time now as a whole, to show every one of us that the Quran is part of life. It's not a whole book that's being revealed outside of life from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then after that you just use it whenever you want. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the Quran in engagement with life experiences. Some of these experiences the Muslims were engaged in wars. Some other experiences the Muslims were engaged in divorce, contestation, and marriage contestation. You see ayat in the Quran about marriages, about divorce, about death, about burial, about tayammum, about lacking water. You'll find verses in the Quran about what kind of food you eat, and about times that you're not supposed to even like be engaged in sexual relationship with your own spouse, about times that you need to be engaged with others, about how you communicate with non-Muslims, how you communicate with your own family, how you communicate with your elders. He even talked about teenagers knocking the doors of their own parents in certain times because are giving them privacy. All of this is mentioned in the Quran. And that's why, my brothers and sisters, we need to reroute again and make tawbah by going back to the source and understanding Islam as it's supposed to be. And it's not the Islam of me or him or her. It's the Islam that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to all of us. And it's that Islam, my brothers and sisters, it has Iman as the core of it. Like when Jibreel alayhi salam came to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and telling him, Dulluni ala al-Iman. What is the core of all of this? قال أن تؤمن بالله as one, وملائكته وكتبه ورسله واليوم الآخر والقدر خيره وشره. And in the ayah in Surah Al-Baqarah, آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله. So that's the core of all of everything. And also, my brothers and sisters, Islam is akhlaq. Is how you are presenting yourself to the world. And if you really truly are sincere in that, and Islam also, my brothers and sisters, is Sharia, is laws. And the misunderstanding here, subhanAllah, I'm starting to dig deeper in that, because when I'm asked from non-Muslims, what is Islam? I have to dig deeper because I might be raised in a culture that makes me feel that this is Islam. But it's not. And then I've been shocked that some parts of my culture are completely anti-Islamic. And when you engage with others, you will filter this out. And when you talk, yesterday I was hosting a group of high schoolers from Cherry Creek School, and they were asking, what is Islam exactly? What does the whole Islam means? Doesn't Islam ask us, when we go to a masjid to make wudu, why are we making wudu? And what is the point of wudu? And if I do not make wudu, my prayer is gone. It's not valid from the first place. If I pray towards that section south, my prayer is not valid. I might do exactly the same things. This is why we will end up the Jum'ah today, and we'll build up inshallah next week. Is Islam, get it and leave the Jum'ah today. Islam is Iman, Islam is Akhlaq, Islam is Sharia. Iman is faith, Islam is Akhlaq, morals, whether social or personal. Not just only social. Because a lot of people ignore the fact that you can be good, do not lie, do not cheat, Do not steal, but you're already living with someone that's not your wife or your husband. You're fine with that, but ignore that part, but you're good. Or somebody might say that I am good in myself, but I'm not going to be engaged in the society around me. I will ignore all of that. I will just do my prayers. What about if somebody comes to you and says your masjid here is not supposed to be here, demolish this, find another place? There might be some laws sometimes says that. Laws that says, okay, we forbid you because you are calling for terrorism, or you're calling for this. And then they're going to kick you out, or replace you, or detain you. Why are you supposed to deal with this? And last but not least, my brothers and sisters, is Sharia. You cannot do anything. You cannot be a good Muslim without following the way that Allah asks you how to be a good Muslim. You cannot be a person who finishes Salah without knowing how to pray. You cannot fast Ramadan with knowing what you need to do to fast Ramadan. You cannot do Hajj by wearing clothes like this and go circling the Kaaba and going to Arafah and going to Muzdalifah and going to Mina and going here and there and finishing the Hajj and then you say, I did my Hajj without following the rules. That you need to have Ihram. Even in that, you need to stop in a certain location, change, put perfume in your clothes, in your body, not in your clothes. That's Sharia. All of these are laws. And last but not least, my brothers and sisters, وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِي غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ. Whoever think that they're going to live a life away from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't accept. اللهم اجعلنا ممن يقول القول فيتبع احسنه. اللهم انصر اخواننا في فلسطين. اللهم ايدهم يا رب العالمين. اللهم ان الظلم قد بغى عليهم فانصرهم. اللهم اهد قلوبهم الى الحق. اللهم انصر اخواننا المستضعفين في السودان. اللهم انصر اخواننا المستضعفين في كل مكان يا رب العالمين. اللهم انصر كل من ظلم. اللهم انصر كل من ظلم. اللهم آت نفوسنا تقواها وزكها أنت خير من زكاها. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه ولا تكلنا إلى أنفسنا طرفة عين يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن